So in case you weren't aware, Niantic recently updated the move pool for Tyranitar, and this Pokemon has quickly become one of the top Pokemon to get in Pokemon Go. I'm going to be talking about all of this in today's video, so let's roll the intro and get right into it. Hey, how's it going everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. I hope you're having a good day and welcome to today's Pokemon Go video. Okay, so we need to talk about Shadow Tyranitar because this has quickly become one of the most important Pokemon to get for your collection. The reason why I say this is because it recently received a brand new charge attack, and this one charge attack has elevated this Pokemon to the top of the list for raid attackers and different things like that. So what am I talking about here? Well, recently Tyranitar received the move Brutal Swing, which if you are familiar with this move, it is one of the highest damage dealing dark type attacks currently in the game. And yes, Tyranitar just received it. It was originally just part of Hydreigon's moveset and a couple of other dark type Pokemon, but it wasn't available for some of the classic dark types like Tyranitar. Well, that all changed recently with the new season, and Tyranitar is definitely making waves when it comes to raid battles and other PvE content like Team Go Rocket battles and gym battles. More specifically, I wanted to highlight Shadow Tyranitar because this particular version of Tyranitar has already been considered a top raid attacker, but even more so now with Brutal Swing. Let's go over the details of Shadow Tyranitar. First and foremost, this Pokemon is a rock and dark type Pokemon. That gives it a plethora of different weaknesses, but it also gives it a good amount of resistances as well. So it's really going to be situational when you use this Pokemon, but I highly suggest you use it whenever you can because of how powerful it is. The one type damage that you will want to watch out for is of course fighting types, because Shadow Tyranitar does have a double weakness to it. It is also going to be weak against fairy types, bug types, grass types, ground types, steel types, and water types. But it's also going to have a ton of resistances to some very common types. This includes psychic types, of which it has a double resistance to, dark types, fire types, flying types, ghost types, normal types, and poison types. Shadow Tyranitar is going to be boosted by two different weather types. This is of course going to be partly cloudy weather and foggy weather. Now, in terms of Shadow Tyranitar stats, it's going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to lean very heavily on the attack side. It's going to have a base attack stat of 251, a base defense stat of 207, and a base stamina stat of 225. These stats are actually extremely good for pretty much any Pokemon. They're on par with some of the hardest hitting legendaries, and of course with that shadow damage bonus, you're going to see an increase of about 20%. The one caveat is that it is going to have 20% less defense, but considering that its defense stat is naturally really high, this is something you will seldom worry about. The one key takeaway with this is, of course, the amount of damage that you can deal with Shadow Tyranitar, even compared to a 100% IV regular Tyranitar. A 20% attack damage boost does mean that Shadow Tyranitar, even at 0% IVs, is going to deal more damage than a 100% Tyranitar that is not a Shadow. This is something that a lot of players have known for a while, but in case you are not familiar with Shadow Pokemon, that is something you do need to keep in mind. Of course, the other big caveat with Shadow Pokemon is the insanely high cost to power it up, but if you are willing to spend the higher amount of Stardust and candy, then Shadow Tyranitar is definitely one worth investing into. Considering how much damage it can deal as a dark type raid attacker, it is something you do not want to ignore. But as you may have figured out, that high damage is going to be contingent on its move pool. In terms of Shadow Tyranitar's fast attacks, it can come with Smackdown, Bite, and Iron Tail. Now, a lot of players tend to run with Smackdown considering that Shadow Tyranitar is a very good rock type attacker, but considering that there's so many really good rock types out there and very few dark types, I would actually go with Bite. It's a high damage dealing fast attack that doesn't necessarily generate a lot of energy, but it is going to be very useful in dealing out as much dark type DPS as you possibly can. Now, of course, you will want to pair it with the right charge attacks. Now, the different charge attacks that Shadow Tyranitar can come with include Stone Edge and Brutal Swing, also Fire Blast and Crunch. Crunch was originally the dark type attack that you want to go with, but now that Shadow Tyranitar has Brutal Swing, that is definitely the one you will want to go for if you are looking to use it for dark type DPS. You do not need an elite charge TM in order to get Brutal Swing. You can just use your regular charge TMs right now on your Shadow Tyranitar in order to get this one powerful special attack. But of course, this is only going to work on any Shadow Tyranitar where you have already removed Frustration. If you do not have a Shadow Tyranitar with Frustration removed, do not worry, because a couple of weeks from now, we are going to get an event where you will be allowed to do it. So if you're sitting on a really good Shadow Tyranitar, just wait until that event so that you can remove Frustration and replace it with Brutal Swing. Alright, and there you have it. These are all the details that you need to know regarding Shadow Tyranitar with Brutal Swing. Now, something to keep in mind is that it was recently revealed that Tyranitar is likely going to be getting a Mega Evolution really soon here. So even if you do not have a really good Shadow Tyranitar, do keep in mind that the Mega Evolution of this Pokemon is going to be the absolute best Dark type raid attacker. So you do not want to miss out on that one. If you have a high IV Tyranitar right now that is not Shadow, I highly suggest you power it up as soon as possible, because once it receives that Mega Evolution, it is going to be the one Mega Evolution that you are going to use extremely frequently. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I would love to know your thoughts regarding everything that I talked about. Make sure you share them down below in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. And if you ended up enjoying this video and found it to be informative, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then do consider checking out the links in the description below. And yeah, that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.